All right. Does it say recording on your end?
It does. Yeah.
Word. Word. We'll just see if it goes. Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Like I I've literally opened up TikTok before and I haven't
Yeah.
shared a ton of things on TikTok, but I'll just have the screen open on like ready to record and
Mhm.
it changes how I show up to perform or share a song or cover a song immediately because it's like I'm right at the edge of performance where like okay whatever I'm about to do could be shared with the world in 3 seconds, so it's like all right, like feel that energy versus if I had my phone off in the other room, it's like might be a different energy.
Yeah.
um, it's like
I
a
feel that. Yeah.
it's like a psychological trick to get yourself, or at least me sometimes, to get in the zone.
Yeah.
The market, like using the market as a inspirational tool.
Pretty much.
Hmm.
Yeah, dude. I don't know. It's so interesting to me. I feel like sometimes it works. It doesn't work in my advantage, depending on what it is. Like if I'm like, I don't know, I'll be practicing and I'll just be exploring while I'm practicing and I'll play something cool. I'll be like, what was that? That's cool. And I'll go back and play again. And I'm like, all right, now I need to record it so I can listen to it later. And then when I'm like recording myself, I'm like, for some reason, I guess I'm just like hyper aware of the recording and of my playing, and I'm like, don't mess up now. And I'm like, so that I'm making mistakes, and I'm like, oh well, now it's not nearly as natural and as cool as it was when I just happened upon it.
Yep.
I don't know what that's about, but that happens to me sometimes when I try to start recording stuff, and I'm like, all right, it's just getting funky. I'm like,
Nerves.
nerves, yeah, I guess it's just nerves.
Yeah. Dude, a really powerful imagination thing. I may have told you about it before. Like, when I remember to use this, it's been super helpful because it's usually pretty terrifying in a good way. I imagine like my mentors or people I'm inspired by being in the room, and that immediately changes my energetic state. Where I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, if Stevie Wonder was right here, I probably wouldn't be talking about like me holding up a camera and TikTok and stuff. I'd be like, just go, just go practice, bro. Like, and he's like, yeah, man, that's probably true.
That's
So
good.
it's an interesting imagination tool I've used to change my energetic state if I need to sometimes.
That is good. Yeah.
Because like it shouldn't be that a big of a surprise. Like a thing I'm passionate about is how people idolize certain people, and I think it's like different than respect. Like I respect Stevie Wonder so much, but like if I were to meet him, I would love to be able to like hold a conversation and not be like like
Yeah.
that. So it's like why not prepare for that imaginatively now. And if you feel really nervous just imagining it, it's like that's good. Like feel that some more and like maybe try again later. And then by the
Yeah.
time you actually do cross paths with someone that you admire, you're kind of like, oh, we've already met. We're good. How's it going? Kind of thing.
Yeah. I think that's good. That's a good point because they're just a person.
Right.
So, and all you're seeing is all like the like stuff you've cooked up in your head. You're like, they're this amazing, they're larger than life, which is like kind of true too. But at the same time, they're just like a person. They just like are in the process.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's a good point.
Mm. So who have you been keeping your eyes on recently? Like any recent mentors or just like people on social media during this downtime that you've been like checking out in particular, like musicians, inspirational people, teachers?
Um, yeah, I've been I've been doing a lot of or like working through a lot of Ram Dass's stuff. He has this like a meditation. Um, I don't really know what to call it. It's kind of like there's like some meditations in there, there's some mantras in there, and it's like a week by week thing where every week there's a certain thing you read, and then the next day is a meditation. The next day is a video of like some snippet of one of his lectures. So it's like a lot of different kinds of media in there, and you just kind of work through it. And it's all about basically opening your heart and
Mm.
being able to like receive more love and give more love and just being more open from your heart is the like the theme for it. So I've been working on that pretty regularly, and that's just been like blowing my mind, just like super eye-opening experiences. And like he'll say something, I like try to journal when I'm watching him lecture or like anything like that, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, pausing it and like writing it down, and like I hit play and he says something again, I'm like, oh, and then I have to pause it. It takes me like an hour to get through a 30-minute lecture because I'm writing everything he says down, but it's really good. um and then musically, I've just been I feel like I've just been all over the place. Like one day I'll be like really into 80s music, and I'm like listening to all these 80s bands with like a bunch of synth stuff, and I'm like, this is so cool. And there's like no real drums in it at all. I'm like, this is awesome. And then the next day I'll be like super into like there's this one drummer that I really like right now. His name's Yusuf Days, and he does a lot of like really like it's like I don't even know what to call it. It's a lot of instrumental stuff, but it'll be like it's faster tempos, kind of like R&B infused, um, and it's like really funky too, and it's just so groovy and it's so cool. And it'll usually be like a trio. It'll be like him and a bass player and a guitar player, or like him and a organ player and a bass player, and it's just like super vibey stuff. But he's also playing like all this cool stuff on top of it, and I'm like, whoo, you're nuts, man. So I've been listening to him a lot too.
How
But
did you discover, like, how are you discovering music these days? Like, what do you go to find when you want something fresh? Is it just kind of like you stumble upon it because you see someone's Instagram story, or like, how's that been if you were to like track that down right now?
I would say the top two ways are Instagram and Spotify. Spotify is always good for stuff because I'll be like, because I get stuck in a rut and I'm like, I don't know what to listen to. So I'll be like, well, who was the last person I listened to? And they like super, they inspired me a ton. So I just go to their tab on their profile where it's like uh, people who listen to them or like related artists, basically
Mm-hmm.
that tab. And I'll look through those related artists a little bit. And sometimes they're like not that similar. Sometimes they're great, but I'll also I recently started doing this on Instagram. If like somebody like verified like a big Instagram profile has a post, a lot of the times the only comments that will pop up unless you click on the comment section, the only comments that it'll show at first, just looking at the thumbnail, are if you don't,
Mm.
it'll be people you follow, or it'll be other verified artists.
Mm-hmm.
So like I would go on my favorite drummers' Instagram accounts and just look at those, and there'd be some comment on there. And I'm like, who is that? Why is this comment showing? And I click on their page, and they're some other drummer with like 10,000 followers. And I'm like, oh, who is this person? I should know about them. And then I go look at theirs. That's actually how I found Yusuf Days. And
Mm.
I went and go look at their stuff, and I'm like, oh, they're awesome, and they play with all these other people I love. And then you like
Mm.
remember a bunch of music you forgot you loved. So
Mm.
stuff like that's pretty
Mm.
cool.
Remember a bunch of music you forgot you loved. There's so many pockets that I've forgotten like that.
Me too.
How do you like organize? I think I may have shared with you like how every month Christian Steinmetz gave me the suggestion to do the monthly playlist. Anytime you come
Yeah,
across something, just like drop it in there. So I have like an April 2021 going on, and there actually
that's
haven't been
cool.
many things I've added into it. But it's more so to me for nostalgia and to prevent dementia later in life and
Yeah,
amnesia. To be like, what was April 2020 like? Boom. Ah, I remember.
yeah, that's cool. That because sometimes I guess the only way I really organize is I have a bunch of Spotify playlists, but like
Mm.
they're not always named like April 2020. Sometimes they'll be named like some songs or like
Mm.
jazz listening, or it'll be like I have one
Mm-hmm.
that's literally just like the F word. Like I don't know why. That was just like what I was feeling when I named it that. It's like
That's
all songs that make me feel I'm like, oh my gosh. You know, like you
right.
hear a song and you're just like, what is that?
Right.
So I labeled the playlist that.
Dude, it's so interesting. Like I was looking up Trevor Hall and all the people that have made playlists around his music, and it got me thinking how everyone individually, since we have the ability to make playlists as individuals, we essentially are just creating our own albums like that we prefer to listen to.
Hmm.
So it is wild for me to think about, like, I haven't released an album or anything yet under my own music, but people could pick and choose whatever they want and make their own album, aka a playlist. Since I don't have any physical CDs or anything, like, it's it just popped in my head, like a playlist is essentially like your own personal album. You create,
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't like track three. Track three, actually, I'm gonna take from this. Everyone's a DJ.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm.
Another thing that you got me thinking of too is like how you'll have a playlist that you made like April 2020 or something like that. Like a good example of this, of what I'm thinking of, is when Spotify was like, hey, here's all your top played songs from the last 5 years or whatever. Remember when they did that a couple months ago?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like looking through those playlists and listening to them, and I was like having so many flashbacks to like, I was like, oh my gosh, this makes me think of this memory that I totally forgot about that I
Mm-hmm.
associated with this song, or like
Mm-hmm.
this, this moment with this song or this time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's crazy how much we associate music with like a feeling and a time and like people or a place.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, just wild.
I wonder about that too for like my camera roll. Sometimes I'll scroll back through to share content, or like I'm getting ready to release People Are the World on the 24th, and like
Yeah,
finding when we recorded it, and there's a video of us slapping our chest for the video, and then I'll like accidentally touch the scroll button on the camera roll, even though there's not a scroll button. It's just kind of like, and then randomly it'll just skip 3 years, and you're like,
yeah,
"What happened?" And I'll just be like, "This isn't my life right now." Like, whoa, now I'm in another part of my life all of a sudden. Like, I was
yeah,
just a couple months ago, now it's like a couple years ago. Like, whew, what just happened?
yeah.
But yeah, I feel that too with music. Like, it just time warps, and I'm wondering, on the topic of like self-awareness and healing, how helpful it is to like when and if you do keep reopening those boxes of the past, if you're like focusing on your future, and like how often would that be helpful to just like keep reviewing the past, if that makes sense. I don't
That's
know,
it.
it's a deeper question, I think.
That isn't. That's very interesting. Um, I think I have something to build off of that.
Mm.
I've been doing this thing recently that I told you about, where it's like the future self journal from the holistic psychologist, and basically it's like 5 or 6 prompts, and you write down, you know, a certain thing, and it's great because it'll give you something to focus on for that day, so you can like feel like you're moving forward in some sense of self awareness and self improvement, because you'll pick one thing, like um what's the word, what's one of my um um I'm forgetting the word right now.
It's funny
um
you're saying this, dude, because I literally was reading an article about that off Holistic Psychologist this morning.
oh really?
The Future Self Journal. I haven't
Yeah.
downloaded it yet, but I want to download that and try it out.
Hey bud, I got a Chance over here, he's hanging out with me.
Hey, Chance.
um it's money, but it's like being aware of one of your patterns, just finding one pattern and being like, all right, I'm just going to focus on this one today. And one thing that I've been trying to focus on a lot is just judgment. Like, when do I judge myself? When do I judge somebody else? And then like being aware of when it happens, and I'm like, oh, I'm judging myself right now, or I'm judging somebody else, and I'm like, what is that? What am I doing that for? What does that tell me about myself, or about what I don't like, or you know, what I like, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's interesting because I know with me, like it's easy for me to look back at old stuff and I'll start judging myself immediately. I'm like, ah, you were so silly, or like, I don't know, or maybe I'm like, oh, I was really onto something then. Um, so it's nice, it's cool to like, even if you can get another step behind the judgment and just be aware and just look, even if like you're looking at yourself as if you're somebody else, that past version of you, someone
Mm-hmm.
else, being like, oh, that's cool. This Drew was really into this at that time, and they
Mm.
were struggling with this, and like their best friends at this time were these people, and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I can like the whole idea of like you can synthesize all that and find a lesson, or like find some kind of symbol, or like some kind of meaning from it, and be
Mm.
like, all right, because then you have like a way of having an understanding of yourself through like these different tools of music and photos and stuff. You're like, oh, now I have a deeper understanding of like a little bit of where I came from. Maybe something that's a part of my life right now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's still there. Maybe it's something I can take from there. Um, yeah, that's just what I thought of when you said that.
Dude, like on the topic of sharing and capturing moments, like the fact that we do have music playlists and photos and all sorts of random stuff that we can scroll back through. Um, I can think of all the times I've been hesitant to capture those moments, and looking back on it, if I'm really being honest, I'm always grateful that all the things that were captured, because it just like strings together this story of my life, and like all the lessons that I could extract from, like, wow, like during this time I did feel or was this way, and how, like, what does that teach me? What can I learn from that? And like it's so interesting because like right now us talking is like one of those moments. I can literally imagine in a year or 5 years, if this is actually recording and you and I were to like have this for ourselves to look at this combo, be like, wow, like look at that John and Drew then talking about this during quarantine on Zoom.
Yeah,
Like, what?
we're gonna be like, remember quarantine?
Yeah. And it's like, I'm glad that we're capturing the moment and just like we're here for it.
Yeah, me too. This is good,
Mm-hmm.
dude. I think I'm gonna have to take this dude out.
Okay. Yeah. You want to circle back in a second?
Yeah, can we pause and I'll take him out and then
Yeah.
call you right back or
Of
something?
course. Yeah, I'm just
All
chilling.
right, cool.
All right. See you
All
in a
right,
second.
well, I'll be right back. Is there a way to pause this?
I think there is actually. Let me try. I'm going to take this opportunity to shout out my friend Logan Legs for designing this beautiful jewelry. It's lapis lazuli. If you're interested in what he's up to, you can find him. I'll put him in the comments below. It's Logan Legs Design. Beautiful stuff. All right, now we'll wait on Drew, and he'll be back, I'm sure, in just a minute.
He's better now.
Nice. Nice. I just did a little intermission thing. I pressed resume and shouted out Logan Legs. He's been chatting with me and spreading lots of inspiration, and he actually made this piece of
Oh,
jewelry that I've been
awesome.
wearing for like a year now, every
Yeah,
day.
that
It's
thing's
part,
cool.
yeah, it's part of my everyday uniform, so to speak, like the chapter I'm in.
That's
My
good.
my SpongeBob SquarePants vibe.
I love it.
Yeah. So, I think
Yeah,
it recorded it though. I was thinking how just to like, I don't know. I'm feeling creative. This is such a cool little thing that
yeah,
if if this is something that could be shareable, it's like, wow, someone could benefit from this, and we're learning and listening from each other, and it sort of is exciting and nerve wracking and growing and vulnerable. it's all those things at once for me. So I'm glad
Yeah,
to be sharing it with you.
dude, me
Mhm.
too. Yeah, this is good. I've been looking forward to this.
Me too. I've thought about like 8 times since we last talked. I was like, that would
Dude,
be
I
good.
know.
I think it was 2 nights ago when I wasn't feeling too hot that I was starting to imagine our conversation in advance. And I was like, oh, I'll open it. I didn't do this, but I was thinking, oh, I'll open it up and I'll be like, Drew, what do you think? How you do anything is how you do everything. And just like see where that takes us. Um, which that could be an interesting thing to get us back in the flow here. Like
Sure.
how you do anything is how you do everything. Like, what does that quote mean to you? And do we even know who said it? I never remember.
Dude, I have no idea who said that to me, but I when they said it to me, I was just like hitting like a wall, dude. I never forgot that quote.
Slow motion this side. Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly.
Ralph Smart.
Yeah, shout out.
Hmm.
But yeah, man, I feel like personally, I feel like it has a lot to do with like perspective and approach. Because like I was thinking about this the other day. Um, sometimes sometimes you can get yourself thinking negatively about something or like just you can like have a negative idea or perspective on something and like not even realize that there's another way, like not even realize that like you don't have to, because
Hmm.
sometimes I'll be thinking about something and I'll be like, oh man, I'm not looking forward to this, like I don't want to do it, I don't want to do this, blah blah blah.
Hmm.
And then I've just recently started to get to the point where I can become aware sometimes of when I'm doing that and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm like thinking negatively. So I'm like, you're basically like, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like you're setting yourself up to not enjoy it
Hmm.
because you're like already making yourself aware of all these negative things. So then you're gonna go into it, like manifest it. You know what I mean? You're gonna go into it and it's gonna
Hmm.
be negative.
Hmm.
So now I just try to start off and like be grateful for stuff. Be like, oh well, you know what about this situation? Like maybe like you could take working at Publix for example. Being like, I don't want to work at Publix. I don't want to stack produce all day. That's boring. But it's like there's also so many positives. Like I have a job and it's in a nice company like Publix. Everyone there is super nice, and I'm working, so I have something to do. I
Hmm.
have something to learn. Like there's new things for me to learn while I'm here, and like there's just like I get to meet people, talk to people. I get to wake up early, which always feels good.
Hmm.
So um, even just like trying to find the positives, you can start to feel it flip, and you're like, wait a minute, you can like see it as an opportunity. You're like, this is
Hmm.
actually good. I
Hmm.
can find a way to turn this into something good.
Right.
So I feel like that's kind of what it is. How you do, in a sense of that saying, how you do it. Anything is how you do everything. Where it's like if you're gonna approach stuff from a place of fear or a place of like negativity, it's kind of like you're gonna get out what you put in. If you're putting all that into it, then you shouldn't expect it to be like the best day ever. But
Hmm.
if you're gonna wake up and be prepared and be like, all right, I'm gonna come at this and bring my best self,
Hmm.
then you're probably gonna get something good out of it at the very least.
Hmm. Dude, that's awesome. Awesome perspective. Like, I've been going on walks if I actually do leave this square apartment, and
Yeah.
I'll just have conversations with myself, kind of like healing conversations, ideally, where I get to that neutral perspective and just kind of go back and forth and talk to myself. And be
Yeah.
like, so how do you feel this way? And I'm just like, oh, I don't know. And usually starts out pretty slow, and then it's kind of like a kid talking to somebody that's wiser, that like wiser part of me, and
Yeah.
trying to bring that through. And like hearing you talk about the the gratitude of like just accepting the situation you're in, like as is, with like I guess it's like removing judgment from it and finding the silver lining of whatever situation you're in. It's like you don't know what person you might meet at a place like Publix just by happenstance, and like in 2 years time that actually ends up being the person that, like, gifts you this rare drum kit, and it's like, wow, if I didn't show up at this time, and just like we just don't know what
Yeah.
could happen if we're yeah, it's like you said, so, we're it's a self prophecy. If we go into it and we're judging it and we're negative and ungrateful, we might just completely miss out on all these lessons and connections and synchronicities.
Yeah, and like if you're going it, that person could still show up to, connect you to that drum kit or some other opportunity. But if you go into the situation all negative, you're not even going to be aware of, you're not even going to be awake enough to be like, oh, there's something good here, because you're going to be focused on everything that sucks. So that's all you're going to get. But
Right.
if you go in, you're like, you know what? I'm gonna like find everything good about this job. I'm gonna like make every interaction with all the customers and all my fellow employees as good as I can be. And I'm gonna try to learn from them because they've been here longer than me. And then it's like, oh wow, I have stuff to learn. I can come in and like be a positive influence. And then it's like everything's different. Now it's like this great thing. It's an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of like life's happening to me, it's like I can happen to life. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Really
Mm-hmm.
cool.
That reminds me of Jay Shetty, his story a little bit, how he went from being really in that business corporate world, like studying or interning for companies like Google and just bigger, yeah, it's like in that corporate world flow. And then on the flip side, he goes and becomes a monk for 4 or 5 years, shaves
Whoa.
his head and full out changes his lifestyle. And then who would have thought later on he sort of bridged that gap. He like combined all of his previous experiences in his jobs, and he couldn't have predicted that while he was in them. But when he looks back on it, he's like, wow, like how could I incorporate how I'm passionate about spoken word and business and all these lessons of wisdom? Oh, what if I made wisdom go viral in a popular way that's entertaining for people on social media platforms? It's like, wow, like if I was judging my time being a monk, or judging my time being a business person, or judging my time being, if I like was just living that life, then I would have missed out of squeezing out all those lessons. And then now, like, I was just mind blown thinking about this because he's been doing live meditations over Facebook during this quarantine time, and like
Mhm.
20,000 plus people will tune in live to him, just like closing his eyes and sharing this meditation with people show up. And it's like, wow, like look at that manifest of how he once was after this business track, and he's talked about how like he was really just after that success, and then went after this different lifestyle and learned and ingrained himself in this monk lifestyle, and then somehow like combined them all and made the most of all of his experiences, and is sharing this message to where it's actually impacting people in a way that feels super genuine and honors all of his experiences. So it's like,
Yeah.
wow, that's amazing. So none of his jobs were necessarily like a waste of time. Even if it wasn't his dream job, he made the most of it and combined them all, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I think that's important because you have like in a sense you have to make sense of like what you've been through and like find a way to make it useful. Like give it you have to give it a positive meaning because that's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he had just tried to like cut off all those business years from his life when he like went like what seems like the polar opposite direction,
Mm-hmm.
that probably like there's like who's to say that he would have really found what he was looking for if he had just cut himself off from all that, because all those years is where he has all that life experience to look back on, like we were saying with like the photos and stuff to look back on, and like that's like the that's like the meat for like all the lessons and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like, and then after you work through it all you get the lessons, and then like you said you like connect everything, and then it's like that there's like this what am I trying to say? There's like room for like imagination and creativity where you could like, all right, well, this is my story. Like how can I continue it? Like, how can I connect all these dots and like make something out of it, you know?
Mhm.
Pretty cool.
I forget what the phrase is, but I was listening to this Aubrey Marcus podcast with Eric Godsey, and he was sort of talking about this idea, I guess, and it was the combination of all those different skills and how that is a huge advantage. Like him combining that makes him super unique and has
Yeah.
something unique to offer because he integrated all of those different
Integrated.
skills.
Yeah.
Um, where it's like only he can do that. Like there's not many business monks out there. And then
Yeah.
there's many other things that he is as well that he's I'm sure is integrated that I don't know all of his life story.
That's super cool.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Dude, I was thinking of this. I read this quote yesterday, it might have been yesterday or 2 days ago, that was like super impactful for me. Um, I follow this guy. I'm gonna pull it up so I don't botch it. But it's a Krishnamurti quote.
Mm.
Who I'm not sure exactly. I don't know exactly who Krishnamurti was. I don't know if he was like a um, religious guy or what he is exactly. I don't know a lot about him. I've listened to some of his lectures before, and he just always has really really good stuff to say. But he said, let's see, where is it? Here we go. I follow this guy, Vish Visha Vishadu Vish
Oh, Instagram?
yeah
I think
Visha
I follow him as well.
Vishadua Das. Yeah, I think you may have shared something of his, and I found it through him, or I found his account that way. Anyways, this Krishnamurti quote, he says, "Want to know the secret to a happy life? The secret is I don't mind what happens." So it's like just that whole idea of just like
I found it.
it, just accept. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Yeah, that's exactly. I saw it yesterday, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like that's gold," you
Yeah,
know?
I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I think we're talking about the same person.
Yeah, that's the exact post I was talking about. I think you can even see that I
Gosh.
liked it on there. But
Yes. Drew Lou.
but I was just thinking about that, or
Mm.
I've been thinking about that for the past day or however long ago I saw it, because it's so that's so simple that you just want to be like, ah, it's too simple. It can't be that. But then when you think about it, it's like that's so hard to do because you have to like accept whatever comes your way
Hmm.
and then be like, all right, this is what like to not I don't mind what happens. Like you're like you have to accept where you are, and then you also can't get attached to the end result. You just have to be like
Mm.
present. You know, you can't be too far ahead in the future or focused on like stuff that happened in the past. So it keeps bringing you back to the present, and
Hmm.
you're just like, all right, you just have to accept, and it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's like a good practice to try to do.
Yeah, it reminds me. Expectations keeps popping up as a word in my head. Like
Yeah.
expectations, that can be a troubling approach. Um, it's weird though. Like on the topic of manifesting and meditating, like I've heard a lot of different teachers talk about the feeling. Like if you're in that relaxed state and you're grateful and you're not expecting, you can expect things to come in unexpected ways, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
good things will come, but you can't really judge or resist how they show up. Like they might show up when you least expect it at that side hustle job where
Mhm.
that's not where you originally planned to have that synchronous moment, but since you're just not expecting, that's when they might just pop in.
Totally. And I think there's a lot of examples of that with like I'm trying to think of some, but like you know it's one of those things where it's like when you finally give up on your need for something or you're like whatever you think you need, you give up on that and then it comes into your life kind of a thing.
Mm.
Like I guess like an example of my own life was like I was always like trying to have like the perfect kind of relationship or like find the perfect girlfriend and then once you stop like obsessing over like having a girlfriend, or you know, once you finally like just look to yourself and you're like, I just need to be comfortable being alone. And once you get to that point and start to work on that,
Hmm.
you're like, I don't really need to have this perfect person or make them a perfect person. I just need to work on myself. Then to it opens you up to, I don't want to say to have that perfect person come into your life, but I feel like what it did for me was it just changed my perspective of it changed my definition. Like
Mm.
I I shifted from needing somebody
Mm.
to just being open to having somebody in my life who we could like just, share life together, like do life together. Not like I need you and you need me, but just like we're both two people and
Right.
we happen to make each other really happy. So
Mm.
we're just going to invest in that, you know? It
Hmm.
doesn't have to be this weird attachment thing.
Hmm. So immediately my brain and heart goes to first figuring out yourself so you can be whole enough to hold your own ground, and then voluntarily, yeah, voluntarily participate in just something that's even like bigger than yourself, like this relationship that you don't need, but you can appreciate because you're whole with yourself. And yeah, it's a very new thing for me. Like, I'm in the first relationship in my life where I'm whole and grounded on my own, and it's not codependent, but like I choose to still invest in it daily because it just makes life better.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoy it more, and there's like that fine line of letting go of all those codependency things,
Hmm.
um, like expectations, I guess.
Yeah. 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 I mean, you're nailing it right there. That's like, it's like, I don't know how else to say it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All the
Mm-hmm.
expectations and just like you can like allow another person to just grow and be and like just be. And then
Right.
you can like, you start to notice that the boundaries and the separations between like you and them, and you're like, oh, this is great. Like, this is really cool. This is where you like see the shape of their personality and who they are, and like you learn more about the shape of yours and like
Mm.
where you are and what you want and what you need. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm. So, ooh, I guess I've a couple ways I want to take it. First,
Yeah.
what what practices or things do you do to help yourself be present? Are there certain things you turn to get more back into the present moment? And I guess I say this, I was thinking about even back to the very start of this conversation about putting up my phone just to like imagine that I'm sharing something to the world, and
Hmm.
it hyper focuses me to be present and share my being. Whereas if I'm distracted and being like a lower vibration version of myself, then I'm selling myself short. So, like, I guess, what what tools or things do you like to use to get really present? One could be music. Like, I was thinking about music. Is you can't be thinking 4 songs ahead. You have to be present.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're literally riding the wave. Or like if you're surfing, you can't be thinking about 3 waves ahead because you'll literally crash in a split second. So you
Yeah.
have to be on the wave. So, yeah, I'm curious where that lands for you. Like, in your daily life, what things might help you get into that flow?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, one of my main ways to like main not well just to try to get back to a present state is um just trying to like Ram Dass calls it being the observer. Just like you kind of find that place in yourself where you just
Mm.
kind of step back and are just conscious, and you're just you're just observing yourself, and you're just listening to your thoughts that you weren't even aware some of them were going through your head,
Mm-hmm.
and like aware of how your body feels, and aware of like just the room, like aware of your senses, like what are a couple things I can see, what are a couple things I can feel, what are a couple things I smell, hear, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll really put you back into the moment of where you are. And then it's kind of like you're like waking back up to the present moment. You're like, oh wow, I was really in the future there, like mentally, or I was really in the past mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you start to practice that, just like observing that moment, like the moment that you're currently in, then that there's like so much potential there, because
Mm-hmm.
you can observe the moment and you notice all these new things. You're like, oh, I'm actually really relaxed right now. I'm really comfortable. I really love this person I'm with, or I really love my house, or like I really love nature. Like you notice the beauty of the things that are around you. And you can also notice like just you learn so much about yourself that way. You're like, oh, whoa, I got like caught up in a thought cycle, and I've been stuck on it for an hour, and I had no idea I was ruminating on this, like
Mm-hmm.
thinking about something in the past. And then you'll see like, because I had that, it's like having a tab open on your internet browser. Like I had that tab open in my brain in the background, and it was influencing everything that was going on that past hour,
Right.
because it's just like generating a little bit of anxiety, and you don't notice it, and you're like, oh, my shoulders are a little hunched, and you just like kind of exhale, and you're like, oh, I already feel better.
Mm.
And then you think back to like 30 minutes ago, you're like, oh wow, I was so worried about this random thing 30 minutes ago, but it's because I was unconsciously anxious, and that thing seems so small now. And then you're just like, you just start to become so aware of things when you just step back and are like, I'm just going to check in with myself and observe, like, where am I right now?
Mm.
So just trying to check in with yourself and observe a couple times a day, and just be like, where am I right now? Okay. Where's my head? Where's my body? Like, are they connected? Am I being
Mm-hmm.
present? How do I feel?
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to get back to a relaxed state, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's helped me a ton.
Mm-hmm. Like, did that start as an inner body awareness when you like ask a question like, "Where am I?" Like to notice your like where you're sitting in the room in regards to the room, and realizing like, wait, there is no danger right now. Why? There's no need to be anxious. Like, I'm not in a dangerous situation.
Yeah,
And
it
then,
started with me as a mental thing where I'm like, where am I? Like, where are my thoughts right now? Like, where am I
mm,
mentally? And I'd be like, I'm not focused on what I'm doing right now. And then once you realize you're not present, then you like become aware of how tense your body is. And I'm like, oh wow, I just need to relax. And
mm,
then you like get out some of that tension, and then you just feel so much more of the room that you're in. Like you feel the presence of everything.
mm,
So for me, it was like a mind. I unlock the mind, like get back to the present mentally, and then it like lets me get back into my body.
mm,
And yeah, meditation has been huge for me too. Just like trying to focus on my breath, and then like being aware of the thoughts that pop up, and you just let them go, and just try to keep going back to like your abdomen lifting and raising, and just like feeling the breath coming in and out of your nose.
mm,
That's been so huge for me. I've learned so much about myself just from spending 5 minutes every morning doing that. You're just like, wow, I'm really thinking about this a lot today. Like, there's stuff that, like, you'll accidentally lie to yourself and be like, that's not bothering me. I don't care about that. But then when you sit in a quiet room for 5 minutes and you're like, I can't stop thinking about this thing, it actually is bothering me. Like, it makes you get so honest with yourself sometimes. It's really interesting.
mm. Yes, meditation's been a new one for me. Um,
It's tough.
it is tough. It's like it's always rewarding, and I've heard Joe Dispenza say like the times when you want to meditate the least and when it is the most like I hate this is when you need to do it the most.
Yeah,
Um, and
that's
like
so true.
about 4 or 5 days ago, I meditated first thing in the morning, and then after like journaling, having some coffee, and getting my day going, my morning routine, I was still like not grounded. And usually that like gets me pretty in the flow. And I was like, what do I
Mm.
do? Like I kind of used my tools in my tool chest. What
Yeah.
next? Like I'm still not where I would want to be. Um,
Hmm.
and like accepting that and being like, okay, what can I do? I guess I'll meditate again. I'll sit down. And so I like sat here on this couch, and usually I do guided meditations, but the second time I just did the silent. Like there's a highway, like maybe 50, 100 yards that way, and there's nobody home at the time. I just like sat here with my eyes closed with no guided anything, and just like let it all happen. I'm like, I don't know what else to do, so I'm just gonna do nothing and just let it be. And sure enough, that did help. Um,
Yeah. Dude, I think that's so important. I don't want to cut you off,
mm,
but I just wanted to build on what you were saying.
yeah, yeah. What build away.
That's been a new, what you just said, like just letting it be. That's been a new revelation for me in the past, like month or 2 months of just because, like, it's like when you like judge yourself and not even know you're doing it. You're like, oh, I'm not okay right now. I can't be this way. But you're like, why? Like, just be a human being, just if you feel anxious and you did your like positive coping strategies to try to deal with it, like meditate and stuff, like that's good.
Hmm.
And if you're still anxious, that's okay. Like you're a human being, you're going to be anxious sometimes.
Hmm.
So because I would do all that stuff and I would still be anxious sometimes, and then I would be like, oh no, like I'm broken. I tried to do the meditation and it didn't work. I messed up. I did it wrong, or I'm broken now.
I'm the only one in the world that
I'm the
that.
only one.
Yep,
And
yep.
then you just like, so now I just started being like, you know what, it's fine. It's not a big deal. Like this is just part of it. And I'm gonna allow myself to be anxious and just like be present with that.
Mm,
And then like 15 minutes go by and you're not anxious anymore. And you're like, oh, I did it. I
yeah,
got through it. I'm
yeah,
still alive.
yeah. It's like you just let yourself experience it with
Yeah.
removing more of the judgment out of it,
Yeah.
and like passes through quickly. It just popped up in my head that analogy of being in the ocean and standing there, and like waves are coming at you that are out of your control, and there are a couple options. You can just like calmly in a relaxed state just embrace the wave and let it just pass through you and around your legs and through you,
Mhm.
or like try and punch the ocean and be
Yeah.
like, that's not gonna do much. Like it's you're just wasting your energy, bro.
Exactly, dude. That's exactly right.
I don't know who said that, but that's now come up as an analogy like 4 times in my life.
Yeah. That's a good one too. Because
Hmm.
you can't fight it or like deny it. You just have sometimes you just have to sit with it and just be
Hmm.
like, all right, this is just where I'm at right now, and that's okay.
Hmm.
And you just like know that it'll pass.
Hmm.
And mentally, you can just remember like this is gonna pass
Hmm.
until your body like catches up with that, and it's like, all right, we're good. Like we got it out of our system.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
weird. Being human's weird.
right. And another thing that I'm bouncing to in my head is breathing to change our energetic state.
Yeah.
That's been a new thing for sure that both of us have dabbled with a little bit,
Hmm.
and like that for sure changes my state energetically. Like it forces me to focus on my breath like very consciously, because you're just like in out, and you're just really rhythmically getting into this flow. It's
Yeah.
almost like music but you're just doing it with your breath. And I mean, I don't know all the biology of what goes on in hearing people like Wim Hof talk about it, but it seems to just be a wondrous tool that humans are like rediscovering now. And like, wait a second, you're telling me I could just go breathe for 5 or 10 minutes, and that's now becoming like a mainstream thing that could truly heal people and do
Yeah.
massive benefits.
It's crazy.
Hmm.
It's literally crazy because it's like the little bit of like biology that I've like come to understand about it is that basically your lungs are connected. They have a connection. I think it's the vagus nerve or something like that.
Hmm.
Your lungs are connected to that somehow. Somehow your lungs are connected to your nervous system, and you can like control your nervous system and slow it back down, or like get it back to a baseline by just breathing. You can just tap into that.
Hmm.
But I know I wanted to ask you what some of your favorite or like what you found to be most useful breathing techniques are, because I know for me I have one that I always go back to that's always worked for me. And my dad shared it with me. He like shared
Word.
in my family group chat. He like sent us this video one day. It was like, hey, check this out, this is really cool, like it really helps me out. And it's a you inhale it, or first you start by just exhaling completely, letting all your air out, and then you inhale for 4 counts, you hold it for 7 counts, and then you exhale for 8 counts. It goes 4, 7, 8. Inhale, hold, and then exhale. And then you do it a minimum of 4 times, and you all like after 3 or 4 times, I already feel 10 times better.
Mm.
Just from doing that, I already feel so much more relaxed. But that's what I've been doing a lot. What do you do?
Um, I've I dove in. I saw this video by Elliot Hulse and this other guy Troy Casey on YouTube, and I may have sent it to you a few times over like the last year or so. Like they dropped this video where they went out to Venice Beach like one morning and did like a guided breathing session,
Okay.
and his practice was more intense, and he like says that in advance. He's like, I kind of am I have more energy that I need to like harness in, and it helps me to like be more intense. Like some people drink coffee and it hypes them up, and some people drink coffee and it actually like cools them down.
Yeah.
And so for him, he found like his breathing technique, he prefers it to be like more intense, like faster, like
Okay.
that for 30, 40 breaths and then exhale. Whereas
Interesting.
Wim Hof, I've also played with, and it seems like overall his is a bit more like medium paced. Like
Okay.
it's a bit more relaxing and deep and hypnotic, I would say.
Okay.
And then I haven't done much of the slower breathing. Like I heard about box breathing only one time, which was the counting that I
Oh,
guess
okay.
it
Yeah.
is called. Or I guess they said the box breathing is like making a 4 4 4 count, or like a 5 5 5 count, or 6 6 6,
Gotcha.
and making like a game out of it. So usually right now I've been in like the medium to fast pace, and
Cool.
I recently found this guy. I don't remember his last name. It's Dan something on YouTube, and he has this Spotify playlist called Alkaline Breathing, and he does it so he finds songs that are a certain BPM that vibe with him, usually instrumentals, and he just plays that song and breathes to that BPM.
Oh,
And I
that's
think
cool.
that's so dope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, it's called Alkaline Breathing, and there's a few thousand people that follow it. And
Nice.
I'm like, wow, that's great. Like you can listen to music and not only enjoy the music, but like physically and physiologically just boost everything like to a beat.
Yeah.
Like lift off, baby.
That's cool.
Hmm.
So, which one of those have you found to be like the most helpful for you?
Mm. Honestly, I think the fast-paced one has been great for me because it leaves no room for me to be thinking about other things. It's kind
Mm.
of like I'm so in the flow and focusing on my breath that I don't have any other time or space for thoughts. I like
Cool.
I surrender to it really quick if I get into that. By like the 20th breath or so, you're kind of like my thoughts are like I'm not even gonna try.
Yeah.
Like you don't have any room here. You're just in that flow.
Yeah.
The Wim Hof like medium breathing speed that I've played with takes me a bit longer, and that's a bit more relaxing. Like I've fallen asleep after
Oh,
breathing
wow.
before.
That's
Hmm.
cool.
Just lying on my back and just out. Um, but yeah, that's been a wonderful tool. And I also forget, sometimes it's funny, like I in my journal I write out the structure for my day the day before,
Hmm.
and love to like check things off and get those dopamine hits for things
Yeah.
that are actually important, like, so it's kind of a win-win, not just like me faking myself out, which I've done that before a lot too.
Yeah.
um, but it's like, even if I do check off, oh, I did meditation this morning, or I did my breathing practice this morning, like you can do it again, like, or every hour if you wanted to, on some days if you needed to, if you felt called to. And that's what Wim Hof has said too, and it just like changed my perspective. It's not like a one and done thing. If you want to breathe 5 times today, like, by all means, it's free. You've been breathing all day, like, get in there and feel good.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's cool.
that's so cool your dad sent that in a group chat, like,
Yeah.
what a time. So like, what have you found challenging and or um trying to think of the opposite of challenging, rewarding during this quarantine time? Like, are there
Okay.
certain things you would want to extract from it whenever the world, quote unquote, resumes, which it probably won't resume back to normal by any means, because everyone's waking up and learning so much about themselves, it seems.
You're right. I heard a cool somebody say something cool about what you're just saying. How like everybody's like, I mean, even myself. Everyone's. It's easy to say like, oh, when things go back to normal, but in a sense, like nothing's gonna go back to normal. Like it's just just gonna enter into post quarantine,
Mm-hmm.
ideally. But like the world's gonna be different because this is like a huge, like a global pandemic. Like, and the example this person gave when they were talking about it was like after 9/11, like now all airports are different.
Mm.
Like like this could change, like health regulations. Like who really knows? Like could change healthcare. Who knows? But like the world's going to be a different place after this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so it's hard to just be like when everything goes back to normal. I catch myself thinking that and saying it all the time, and I'm like, well, it's going to be a new normal. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is a new normal now.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess just like to go back to what you were saying, challenges and rewards, or um, it's been like I think just overall, just trying to like handle the change because it's like this huge change that just fell in everyone's lap, and like everyone's life is flipped upside down for the generally
Mm-hmm.
depend to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, what's been really good is this has really helped me establish a lot of routines for myself, like really getting into meditation, really getting into journaling, really getting into practicing. So with that, part of my challenges have been um, trying to maintain routines and also um, trying to like handle stuff that will get in the way of processes, because like I've started all these little mini processes, all these mini routines of like journaling and meditating and reading and practicing my drums. So now I'm like coming up against all of the problems that I've had with some of those things in the past of like laziness or um, perfectionism. Like perfectionism has been a big thing for me this quarantine, where I'm like, all right, am I going to practice today? All right, let's go practice. I start practicing. I'm like, oh well, this just isn't right, and then I get like overwhelmed with the perfectionistic thoughts and frustrated. So then I just take a break and I breathe and I'm like, all right,
Mm.
let's slow it down, take it from the top. It's going to be okay. It's not going to be perfect, but that's fine. It's going to be honest. Let's go again. Like just dealing, like managing those things, like managing myself in that way. I'm like seeing all these areas of like, all right, well, I've really let myself go in that area. Like trying to like maintain um, an exercise or like a stretching yoga routine kind of a thing. I'm like, I don't want to do that today, you know. And then the next day, I'm like, well, I don't want to do it today either. And it's like, no, 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 you got to stay on it. So
Right.
just keeping myself accountable
Yeah.
on things can be tough sometimes. Um, but as a whole, this has been good for me because I've been forced to like really get honest with myself and like check in with myself, and
Hmm.
I've been forced to just get comfortable with a lot of things that you can use work and life to distract yourself with. And now there's none of that to really distract myself with. So I'm like, all right, let's think about this. Let's process this. Let's work through this. Let's, you
Hmm.
know, get some healthy routines and really find some ways to like build some self improvement and um, just try to accept the change and move with it. You know.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, it seems like you're crushing it, man. For
Thanks,
real.
dude.
For
I'm
real.
trying.
Your energy is great. Like, talking out loud about all this is so helpful, I think, for anybody. Like,
Yeah,
my friend Logan, who made this,
yeah,
um, he called me yesterday and was just talking to me about like creative stuff that we are both working on in our own domains, and he was just kind of brainstorming ideas of like, oh, what if you did this? What if you did this? And I'm working on a music video for this new song, "People Are the World," and he's like, what if you did this on Instagram and or TikTok? And like the fact that it came from him and it was one on one, it's like nothing that I hadn't heard before. Like I follow all sorts of great advice and wonderful mentors on social media that I'm super inspired by that have told me that 12 times. And
hmm,
then like him saying it for the 13th time, it's just like wow, like that is so much more personal to my life that like I heard it and
yeah,
coming from like a peer almost.
yeah,
So it's like that's one reason why I'm really excited to even have a conversation like this, because like just later today I'm sure I'll be reflecting on like just the way Drew was talking about like being present or like looking more into that box breathing. Like even though I've heard about it 10 times, just like hearing it from you, a friend and a peer, I'm like actually hearing it in more depth, it seems like.
yeah, yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
Mhm.
That's crazy how that is. That's interesting.
Right. And it's weird because initially on this phone call with Logan, I quickly turned to like judging myself. It's like, oh, I could have been doing that last week, and I already knew this. And it's like, bro, like, aren't you just glad you feel inspired to do it now?
Yeah, yeah.
So like, take a step in that direction
Mhm.
now that you've got that final bit of inspiration or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Hmm. The change.
Yeah,
So what's the rest of today looking like? I don't know how long we want to chat. I wonder how long we've been on here. Like a minute?
probably like an hour-ish or so, just
Yeah.
because like I took that little break to take out chance,
Mm-hmm.
something
Mm-hmm.
like that. I'm gonna make lunch here, probably soonish. Probably
Mm.
whenever we finish up, Heather should be home soon from work.
Word.
And, I'm gonna eat some lunch. I've been trying. I've been packing on a little bit of weight. I think during the quarantine, just like a tiny bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been trying to like make better food choices or like fast certain meals. Like today, I had coffee instead of breakfast just to like keep my calorie count low. So I'm just like trying out new things to like, and like, how's my body feel about this? How's it feel about this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if I eat oatmeal instead of eat, I don't know, a
Right.
waffle? You know what I mean? Just
Dude.
like
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah. It's like we're all on this spiritual elimination diet since there's so many less variables in a lot of people's lives where we are being forced to look at our very basic actions that like when we reintroduce slight changes like drinking this tea versus this coffee, like that's a big major change for some people's days right now because
Hmm.
it used to be hopping on this plane or driving to this work and dodging all these different and going from this activity to this activity to this activity. And we
Yeah.
actually have a lot of people have the opportunity to notice those small changes of, is oatmeal, how does this feel right now when I'm at
Yeah.
home?
Yeah.
Like, does this resonate with me? And I'm excited to like take that bit of knowledge into the next chapter of this time.
Yeah.
Like when I actually go to a coffee shop or a new place or a new situation, being like, okay, I was really grounded at home for literally a month or however long we're here, and how do I feel in this environment?
Yeah. Dude, that's a good point. Because I've been noticing like now when I take time to step back and just try to like observe and like be observant of myself and of the moment, I find like how much stuff my brain just like filters through. Like there's so much that you can just stop and like spend your attention on, like eating a meal and just like not eating a meal in front of the TV or like just eating a meal and being like focusing on every bite and like chewing and focusing on like am I full yet? How do I feel? Like do I overeat? Do I undereat? You know what I mean? Like
Dude,
so many basic things that we just check out on. And
yeah,
then now we get this quarantine and you're like, oh wow, there's so many things to focus on now.
yeah,
Like it's cool.
yeah.
It's
I
nice.
eat way too fast. I
Me
I'm
too,
working
man.
on that. I
I'm
like,
trying to like count how many times I chew.
dude. Let me know if you crack a code there, cause I still eat really fast. One thing I can say, recently before meals, I've been saying things I'm grateful for
Oh, that's
before
cool.
before going in. Like Sarah and I will sit over here and we'll just like go back and forth and um, just say like list off things, and that
Yeah.
changes the state, and I'm sure changes how we digest the food, and um, it's turning into a nice little habit just to like list off things, whatever comes to mind. I'm grateful for this microphone. I'm grateful for this Zoom call with Drew. I'm grateful for this tea that was really great, and just after like 10 of those, you're just like, wow, I feel better. Like, wow, there's so
Yeah.
much to be grateful for.
Yeah.
Let's eat.
The room gets a little lighter. Like it's
Yep.
so cool.
hmm So what's the maybe I'll ask like one more question and we can call this like a massive cool win.
Sure.
Um, what is the most meaningful thing to you today that you want to like get right? Like for the rest of your day, like how do you want to carry yourself, or what activity do you want to show up like your best version for yourself at later today? Like if you were to get like one more thing really right today, like what could that intention be to go for one more thing today?
Today, my intention that I actually wrote it down when I journaled earlier today.
Ooh.
Um, Today, I'm gonna focus on shifting my pattern of like downplaying or belittling um, like opportunities and experiences that life just naturally brings toward me instead of judging them, just like allowing them, not trying to be so controlling with things and just open up more and just be more, just kind of allow more and just be present with things more today.
Wow, I love that. Love that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's nice to have an intention for the day. It changes the whole day because you
Mm-hmm.
can. Some days you'll for me personally, it's easy for me, or in the past, it was easier for I would wake up and I'd be like, oh, I feel so like you wake up feeling so lost. You're like, what do I do today? Like, who am I? What am I doing? And then it's just like you spiral. But that's why these routines are so great because then you're like, all right, I have an intention for today. Like I have a mission, I have a goal for the day,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a positive one. And then everything shifts after that.
Mm-hmm.
Everything like you give it the day a meaning. Like, and then you're growing and learning, and it's like this whole new thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, today I'm just gonna allow and observe and just be present, be a part of life, and opportunities and see where things lead. Just like instead of judging them and trying to control, just be a part of it.
Mm,
That's the plan.
dude, I'm so grateful to share this moment. It's great. It really
Yeah,
is.
this is great.
Like intention, I was thinking about intention, like it's imagination, really. And I want to work
Mm,
on learning how to improve my imagination slash visualization, like the ability to close my eyes and like imagine this situation. Like I don't think I'm very good at that yet. Like it seems like I have more room to grow there.
yeah.
Um, and intention seems like a really practical way for people to tap into that. Like today, I wrote as an intention to embody confidence, service, and mastery.
Wow, that's cool.
Right? So like confidence, being confident in whatever I know, and also in service. And then I was thinking mastery in terms of like paying attention to detail of how you do it, how you do anything is how you do everything. Like when I pick up the guitar, go to work, finish this song I'm working on, it's like, do I need to clean up that take right there at the edge there? It's like that's what the mastery would be like. You clean that up and not like make it a big deal, but just like take notice of that and make it
Yeah,
masterfully good.
yeah, dude, that's great. I like that. That's a good. I like that approach or like perspective on mastery. How it's like an attention to detail and just like a an awareness of it,
Mm-hmm.
instead of skipping over things, just being more aware of things.
Right.
That's cool.
It's kind of it's really like the quote, like how you do anything is how you do everything. It's like, does everything you do matter or does nothing you do matter? Does like
Yeah.
you walking past the garbage right outside your door matter or not matter? Like,
Hmm.
and you walk past, you're like, I have to go pick that up. I gotta go. And if you don't, you like you feel it, and you're like, But then a lot of times, if I look back on some of my life experiences, it's like ignoring that opportunity like 800 times in a row, and then you just get so disconnected from what's meaningful and what matters that you're just 800 steps away from where your center is.
Yeah.
You just need to come back.
Yeah.
Like go pick up the trash, and you might be doing a lot of service for a little while to like recenter yourself and like do the things matter in your field of awareness. Like, do you want to clean up this a little bit if you see something that's a complete mess?
Yeah.
That's up to you to decide.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
Dude, that's great. That's a great point.
So guilty though. It reminds me of Aubrey Marcus talking about recycling. Like he's saying how he was in the airport one time and he had like a plastic water bottle and could just toss it in the trash, but like a little bit further down was the recycling, and he like threw it in the trash real quick, and it was just like, man, like I saw the recycling, it's over there. I'm gonna have to dig this out and like go. Like I'm not gonna feel good about myself because I know like that's meaningful to me, and it might require some more energy, but it's meaningful. So I'd rather push through that to kind of develop that self respect. Really.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Cause you're like it's like a because it's so weird. Like you can't really lie to yourself. Like you're gonna remember. So you have to be what's the word that I was thinking of? Um just like being this cat is playing with this toy down here is distracting me. But just being like authentic, I guess is the word. Just being like authentic with yourself, where it's like, no, no, no. I know myself and I know what is important to me. And I know that recycling or like, being making smart decisions, recycling, being good to the environment, stuff like that is a priority. So if I throw this away when I have an opportunity to recycle it, that's just like a step in the wrong direction. That's a inauthentic move or something. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just like a way to. It's just crazy how those little things are so important. You know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's like each moment has that opportunity, like building off the quote, how you do anything is how you do everything. It's like I don't know what's going on a few weeks from now, but in this very situation, I can listen to my heart and my inner body awareness to just improve the situation. And if I feel called to choose to recycle the thing versus throw something away in the trash, it's like make that decision in this now moment, and then the next time you have that choice, like feel it out and be like, okay, this is more in alignment. I'm gonna do this, and
Totally.
that'll build up.
Totally.
It really does. Just momentum, momentum.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good because you're like it's like you're like establishing that, like reinforcing that connection with yourself, like with your intuition and all that. Just like you said, like alignment. Like what's more in line with like me, like my goals and
Mm,
my like beliefs and like my future idea of who I want to be. You know what I mean? Like that's it's all connected in those, like the little things are so important in that way. They're all connected to that. So it's a good
bro.
point.
All right, I'm inspired to ask one more question, and
Yeah,
we
yeah,
can
go.
transition. Um, what would be a reminder to yourself, like if you were to give advice, like parting advice for if you were to cross paths with old version of Drew, like what would advice be? Or it even could be like a wiser version of you giving advice to where you're at right now. Like what's like a little nugget of gold that you like remind yourself or like pat yourself on the back for, like don't worry about the perfectionistic thing today, or like whatever that is.
Dude, that's really good. I think I would probably tell myself in my past self, or even like I would probably tell myself now, because I'm still telling myself this all the time, is I would tell myself I would tell myself that worrying about something has no like positive effect on the outcome of anything. Worrying about stuff is not gonna influence it in any helpful way. It's just gonna make you anxious. Like there's just there's nothing you're gonna get out of worrying about something. You know, it's just not good.
Right. Like what good is coming from it? It's just like making your experience uncomfortable and probably attracting more things you don't want to have happen.
Yeah. I saw this video today on Instagram of this guy. He was talking, this cat is freaking out. This guy was talking about
We're live, Drew.
yeah, we're live. This guy was talking about the mind and how the mind wants to keep us safe.
Mm,
So it wants to try to control and like predict the future, like future outcomes. And if it can't predict stuff, it doesn't like that. So then it tries to control.
mm,
So that's kind of what like anxiety and worry, I feel like that's kind of where they come into play, because trying to you're trying to come up with all these worst case scenario outcomes to keep yourself safe just in case. But it's like you can either, you always talk about fear or love is the choice. Like you can either go down that road of like, what are all these worst case scenarios and prepare for stuff that's probably not going to happen. Or you can go down the opposite path of like getting yourself prepared for good things that will happen. Because at the end of the day, when something bad happens, most of the time it's not as big of a deal as you worked it up in your head, or it's different, or it's not even, maybe it's a blessing in disguise kind of a thing. But if you work up, hey, but if you work up,
yo, what's up?
John says hey. But if you, Heather says
Hi.
hey. But if you work it up into like preparing yourself for good things to happen, it just, once again, it flips all the worry and the anxiety on its head, where you're coming into things getting ready for good, it's just a totally different approach. And you just have to, I don't know, like sometimes your brain, you have to be aware if your brain is not wired that way, so you can start practicing it. And that's like for me, I have to practice that stuff because my brain's wired to try to predict worst case scenarios and plan for them.
Hmm.
But it's not really going to be that helpful because it's probably
Yes.
not going to happen.
No, we'll focus on the good stuff.
Yeah,
Dude, well, I appreciate you for doing the work, man.
dude, I appreciate you for doing the work. It's nice to
Yeah.
have somebody to talk to about it.
Yes. Yeah. I want to go download that journaling prompt from am I saying this right? Holistic
Yeah.
psychologist? Yes.
Hmm.
That
Yeah,
feels like the next right move for me. I'm kind of getting the same patterns of journaling, and I've been doing
good.
more stream of consciousness, and I'm sure having prompts, fresh prompts, will get at me at a different angle. So I'm excited for that.
They're really good prompts. Here, I'll just take a second and read the 6 prompts for you, just so you know what they are. They are in this order. They are my affirmations. So you write down affirmations for the day. Next one is today I will focus on shifting my pattern of. You pick a pattern you're going to focus on shifting. The next one is I'm grateful for. Write down things you're grateful for. The next one is the person I'm becoming will experience more, and then you write down things you're going to experience more of. Next thing you say, or the next prompt is I have an opportunity to be my future self today when I. Then you're already approaching the day with opportunities to be your future self. And the last one is when I think about who I am becoming, I feel, and you write that down. So it's like you talk about like we've heard this so many times, like practicing feeling gratitude for the future, feeling positive emotions for the future. Like it's right there. All that's right there in these prompts. So
Mm.
I think there's a lot of gold in these prompts, and I've been doing it for since I started April 1st. So 17 days. I haven't done it every single day, but I've tried to do it every day. I've only missed a couple days, and the days when I do follow through on it, I feel it, man. I have such a good intention coming into like going through the day, coming into the day. It's really powerful.
Bro.
It's
Well,
good stuff.
thank you for sharing that. I want
Yeah.
to do that. I feel like I could definitely use that today. Like, it feels like that mental rehearsal before you go out your day,
Hmm.
and you're like already so grounded because you've been like living, you're ahead of your time almost.
Yeah.
So it's like happening in a more calm fashion. You're just flowing more naturally since you already kind of envisioned how you wanted the day to go.
It's like the opposite of anxiety, where like anxiety, you're in the future and you're negative. It's negative, but with that, you're in the future and it's positive because you took the steps to create that. Like you've planted the seeds. So it's really powerful stuff.
Dude, I want to go. I'm seriously, I think I'm going to do that before I go work on music. I want to go through those prompts.
Dude, you should do it. It feels so good after you do it. You're just like, wow, that was. It takes like 5-10 minutes, and you're like, that was important. Great.
More of that. More of
Yeah.
that. Dude, well, I think I'm going to end our recording. Who knows if it
Okay.
even got this? Um, but this has been super inspiring.
Yeah, this is great.
So many nuggets, and our wisdom it goes way back. Like, how many experiences we've shared and learned together, and like seeing you grow and heal and reflect. It's really cool. And
Thanks, man.
I'm grateful for the depth that like you know me at. It's very like humbling and vulnerable to grow alongside you. So I appreciate that, and you holding space for a conversation like this with me. It means a lot. Like, as nervous as I might get in subtle moments, like this is valuable stuff where like if I look back on my life, these are the conversations that it's like we grew in, I think.
Yeah, dude, it's just so cool to like. It's so cool to be able to talk about this kind of stuff with somebody because it's so like it's like such like vulnerable work, because it's like it's tough and it's confusing and like sometimes you're like, all right, I don't even know if this is gonna help me, but I read that it's good, so I'm just gonna do it. And you just commit to it, and then like a week goes by, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did that. So like it's really like weird, almost messy sometimes, kind of work the stuff that you discover. Um, So it's really nice to know that there's other people that are on the same path, and it's a priority, and it's like good. It's good work. So it's nice to know that you're doing it too, and like see the improvements in you as well.
Mm,
It's really encouraging.
mm,
But thank you for doing all this stuff too.
team. Much love. Well, if I could give you a big hug right now, I would. Um, soon enough. Soon enough.
Yep.
Pretty
We'll
soon.
put our gloves and masks on and hug.
Yep. Well, bro, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. I think I'll go do that journaling now.
Yeah,
It
man.
feels right. It feels right. I need that.
It's really good.
Hmm. Well, tell Heather I said hey if she's around. Whoop.
I
And
will.
yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Cool.
Bye, bro.
Love you, dude. See
Love
you
you
later.
too. Sounds good. Peace.
Peace.